To begin our session today, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Reverend J. Edgar Boyd, Senior Pastor and CEO of First African American Methodist Episcopal Church of Los Angeles, or FAME. He's going to give the invocation and opening remarks.
Thank you, Peggy. Let's bow for a moment. Eternal God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for this marvelous opportunity to draw together among these persons who come from the civics community, who come from the corporate community, who come from the nonprofit community, those who are end users. We thank you for the aggregation of leadership and commitment that is assembled in this room. Bless the efforts of UCLA and bless the efforts of the American Lung Association. We ask you to use this time and use each of us to become empowered to help to carry the message of the need and the demand for smoke-free living spaces and smoke-free housing. We pray that this inaugural event will catch fire and will begin to grow and expand in rapid succession so that those who are left out and looked over, left behind, now will be served by the policy that will be changed and by the initiation of these efforts and the materialization of them in the days that are ahead. We ask this now by faith in your Son Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Let me take just a moment and say thank you, Peggy, and say thank you to all of those who are working with the great movement to move us ahead on this issue. It is an important one. It's one that affects every one of us. I'm certain that every one of us can recall in our own lifetime some member of family or maybe a close associate or friend whose life has been tremendously disturbed by the use of tobacco and tobacco-related products. So let's spend this time together. So let me move forward pretty quickly. I'm happy to recognize Antonio Lamans, who's from FAME. He works with us in our FAME movement and there's a collaboration with UCLA on the tobacco and cessation programs, and you'll be seeing a lot of us as we move forward. So I'm just so happy to be here, and would like to thank UCLA and the Center for Health and Policy Research and the American Lung Association of California Center for Tobacco Policy for inviting me to share with you for a moment. I am from First AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal Church. It may read a little differently in your print material. Just so if you ever look for us, you'll look for First African Methodist Episcopal Church. It's acronym by FAME. I'm most honored to join you here for what is this most vital discussion about an issue seriously impacting the lives of residents living in South Los Angeles and the South Los Angeles communities, as well as all Angelenos alike. Our discussion here today focuses on some vitally important issues, and these are two of them: the issue of secondhand smoke in our homes, and secondly, the need for more smoke-free living space. All of us deserve that. It's a right, and we ought to all be demanding that. As I was thinking about this whole idea and this whole matter that brings us together today in this inaugural assembly, I realized something very different and something very special. For many of us who are here today, when we go home at the end of the day, we go home to take advantage of a good living space, a comfortable living room. We sit down to a good, well-prepared meal, hopefully, and we sit down with people that we love, and we have a good meal, and then maybe take some entertainment in, and just kick it for a minute before we go to bed and rest, expect to get a good night's rest. That's stellar. That's at the apex of what any of our wants or desires may be. But that's not for everybody. Even though we may take it for granted, like the wind that blows, like the surf that come in on the ocean at Catalina or in Malibu or in San Mateo, but that's not the same for everybody. There are persons who actually go to work, come home tired after the day's work, and maybe spend a little time with the children, get them fed and put them to bed. And that child in bed and the parents who are in another room may then go on through the night breathing secondhand smoke, by someone else in the same unit, or someone else perhaps above or below them in the same building. And the air is not filtered, but it's just circulated around, and you're breathing in smoke from someone else. So we just can't relax. Well, you are here. You've already decided to be here today, so I know I'm speaking to folk who are already on the case. But just in case there might be somebody here who's new to this issue, let me join you in helping you understand the importance of what all this about is for smoke-free housing. Secondhand smoke in apartments is a critical health threat. And as such, it has become a public health issue for every one of us, not just for those who are impacted, but for all of us, right here and right in this time. This issue has become so destructive in low-income communities and among some of the most vulnerable populations. Don't take my word for it. You'll hear a whole lot about this from people in civic government, from people in the industry, the policymakers and setters, the trendsetters. You'll hear a lot about that from them today as partners. And among those who believe in this issue at stake in this fight are partners like UCLA and the American Lung Association. They tell you, they will tell you all day about their trusted work and what they have done and what you can do in partnership with them to making smoke-free housing to become a reality for everybody. But first, let me tell you a few things that are important to me. There's one reason why this issue, like few others, have bothered me. Since the 1970s, more and more Americans have become aware of the danger of tobacco and its usage, and they have stopped. It was in 1988 and 1989, while I was pastoring Bethel AME Church, 79th and Western. We engaged against the negative advertisement on outdoor billboards with Patrick Metropolitan and Gannett Media. In South Los Angeles, the proliferation of negative advertisement, that of alcohol and tobacco products, was 79% of the advertisement on billboards. However, conversely, across town in Northwest LA, that figure went down to about 27%. And we saw the stark reality of the disparities. And we went on the campaign. We called a press conference one Thursday morning, and we, before the news cameras, painted out 5 billboards within 2 blocks of the church where we were. And we sent the message. And so as a result of that, the real energy began to go. We moved the proliferation of 78, 79% of negative advertisement down to 34% of negative advertisement just by one movement. So since the 1970s, more and more Americans have become aware of the danger of the usage of tobacco in their stock. And as a result of the impact on big tobacco, they have come to realize that in order for them to maintain ground in this industry and remain viable, they needed to come up with ways to stop the decline and stop the dwindling of their customer base. So what did they do? What did they focus on? Where did they go? Where did they turn? How did they move to make up their losses? How did they repair the decline of customer base? They did it among the least of us. Yes, big tobacco industry started targeting people living in low-income communities. Today, tobacco has really become the scourge of the low-income community across the United States of America. Big tobacco industry continually targets and markets their products in communities, creating a perpetual cycle of usage, addiction, and they're used among the users and sufferers of those who breathe their secondhand smoke. These marketing efforts result in severe health complications. These complications come to exist not just for those who smoke, but also for those who live around them, the secondhand smoke. Supporting this reality is also a perpetual cycle of new customers, those who are lured into the addiction. As a result of the tobacco industry's targeting and marketing schemes, some of these people, some of these new smokers, end up living in multi-unit housing throughout your community, our communities. Their secondhand smoke impacts family members who live in units, as well as the neighbors living next door, and the cycle goes on and on and on. What makes particularly this whole matter to become so insidious and so disturbing is the length to which big tobacco will go to keep this cycle in place and keep their products moving. They target the most impressionable among us. The industry has marketed flavored products appealing to the youth, aimed at getting them started early. And this is just one way that our communities and those living in our neighborhoods are suffering, not just from the secondhand smoke, but from the institutionalized industry's marketing campaign. This is why you will hear phrases like tobacco in the low-income community is a social justice issue, not just a health issue, but also a social justice issue, and it really is. As a pastor, I've seen firsthand the destructive impact tobacco usage can have on people. I've visited cancer patients in hospital and in their homes, those who are suffering from tobacco use. Many of them had lung cancer and respiratory complications brought on by tobacco usage. I prayed with them, I prayed with their families. I've had to officiate funerals of persons who have died prematurely because of their smoking addictions. And for some, who were just simply victims by virtue of them breathing in secondhand smoke in their homes or near their living space. This is an issue, not only demands that we take action, but one in which we must do it with compassion. The smoker, but as well the victims likewise. So we must consider the smoker as a victim. We need more education, we need more resources, we need more dedicated and compassionate people like yourselves to help us and help the victims who are around us. Our challenge is to help each in a very sustaining effort. Each of you are asked to play your part in creating a smoke-free living environment. Yes, we can expand the number of smoke-free apartments. Just remember, our effort is not about punishing tobacco users. It's about working together out of compassion and love to create a healthier environment where everybody benefits from it. I'm happy to say that Fame Church has 320 units of low-income housing. And we, through our work with UCLA and the programs that we have, nonprofit collaborations, we've been able to convert all 320 of those units into smoke-free housing. We are smoke-free at First AME Church. I knew it works. I knew it works. We are a direct beneficiary of that work. So I applaud the work of these working centers for health and policy research and for the invaluable time and service and energy that they bring. So in faith-based communities, we welcome these efforts and will be continuing to support them as we move forward. So we have created and built an initiative called SLACDEC, South Los Angeles Community Development and Empowerment Corporation. We have 12 planks, 12 issues that we'll be focusing on from Fame Church and from SLACDEC. So we're partnering with UCLA and with everybody else we can to help to make the quality of life for everybody a little bit better. So we'll be looking forward to working with you, and we'll be looking forward to meeting with you and seeing you in areas like this and gatherings like this around education and healthcare and economic opportunity and jobs and much more as a part of our work through the SLACDEC Corporation. So let me also say, we at SLACDEC pledge our cooperation, our support for organizations like UCLA and the American Lung Association, and as we begin to roll out our menu of services, SLACDEC initiatives, and all that we do, we'll pledge our continued support in this collaborative effort. In order to create housing and healthy environments, we must create smoke-free housing for the communities and the neighborhoods of South Los Angeles. So, today we are presented with a new opportunity. Each of us here are presented with a new opportunity. It is the opportunity to come together and dialogue and come together in collaboration. That opportunity invites all of us to join in an active and collective movement around the issue of smoke-free housing. This initiative envisions an environment where all Angelenos can, as the slogan says on the posters here, breathe easy. So friends, look up and be inspired. Stand up and be seen. Speak up and be heard. Get engaged. Commit to take action. There's much left for us to do. We've only just begun. Together and committed, we can make this happen for South Los Angeles and for Angelenos alike. Come on, give yourselves a great big hand.